This most recent comment by our vice president alleging that the U.S. respects the sovereignty and borders of other nations, therefore we demand they respect ours, really has stuck in my craw. It really has. Having to get off my mind. And it got me thinking about this, about the founding of our country and why we became a country and the political machinations that led up to it. You see, here it talks about George Washington and his fellow patriots voting to stop all trade with Britain and begin training militias. Not standing armies, militias. And this concept of the militia, of the citizen soldier, of the keeping and bearing of arms in the home, in every home, is not something that's uniquely American. It actually began in England as far back as 1181. This is the angrystaffofficer.com short history of the militias. Kind of a great blog, really is. The more I read it, the more I want to read it. But just real quick, the Assize of Arms in 1181, quote, "He will possess these arms and will bear allegiance to the Lord King Henry, namely the son of Empress Maud, and that he will bear these arms in his service according to his order and in allegiance to the Lord King in his realm." Basically, this was the idea behind not having a standing army, that they were seen suspiciously, that any person who was just a professional soldier at the time was not a member of civilized society. And even farther down here in 1581, they even tell what arms you're supposed to have and who is supposed to have them and the ages of them. Let's see, men under 60, a longbow and arrows. If you're between 7 and 17, you have a bow and 2 shafts, and everybody above 17 has a bow with 4 arrows, and then shooting. I mean, all laid out here. And this is something that people do when they want to guarantee safety, sovereignty, and freedom and liberty themselves. Now, when we look at this story about Venezuela, the people that have warned us about Venezuela, we have seen now very clearly, are afraid of Venezuela for one reason: because of their love of freedom, their love of liberty. They don't want to be part of the march to globalism. In fact, it says so right here in this article that I got off of Infodefensa. The president of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, expressed serious concern about the militarization of Venezuelan society and ordered his foreign minister to alert the Secretary General of the United Nations Organization about such situation. So Santos ran off to the UN and said, hey, our neighbor is acting like freedom-loving, sovereign citizens, and we can't have that. They're talking about having 1 million men under arms, not standing army, in their homes, but having been trained. And it makes perfect sense, because if you look at what just happened to Venezuela and is continuing to happen to Venezuela, they have every reason to want to have militias, because they see themselves under the gun of... It's really strange, because at the time, this country was staring down the greatest empire the world had ever known, the British Empire. And now here's Venezuela staring down, well, the United States. A country of 31 million people versus, well, the U.S. globalist empire. I'd say it. It's almost the exact same thing. There were things in the New World back in the 1700s that the British wanted. They wanted basically control of the New World, and they wanted all of its resources just like we want Venezuela's resources. And when you start just handing out weapons to 1 million people, you can't make the allegation that he's handing it out only to people that support him personally. It doesn't work that way. You don't get anybody can change their mind anytime. They're not just saying, okay, here's a pass for 1 million people. Now you million special people, you can go buy arms, wherever you want. That's not what they're doing. They're literally handing out weapons, not making them buy them. And not only are they handing out weapons, they're handing out weapons and training them to use the weapons and expecting them to use the weapons. Now, what I'm going to leave with today, or tonight, I should say, is this video off YouTube, and it only has 398 views. That shows you how buried this is. It's on the ground with Venezuela's militia groups. And I'm just going to play the last minute and a half of it for you so that you can hear how these people talk and tell me what you think they sound like, if they sound like a bunch of socialist communists waiting for their free check from the government.
Leaders of the colectivos accuse a vocal anti-government minority of inciting the unrest.
Bueno, lo que está pasando ahorita es crítico, pero para los ricos. Porque ahorita a nosotros no nos ha afectado en nada, no sentimos que hay ningún tipo de problemática ahorita. Tantos días que hay de huelga, en Caracas y en Estado Vaca todavía no hay huelga, y nosotros para adelante igual con la revolución.
All right, I forgot I had to sped up. Basically what he's saying here is that the people that were protesting the government, these people that are saying they're part of the quote-unquote people's movement that wants to see the overthrow of Maduro, they're the wealthy. They're wealthy people tied into Miami that have U.S. big globalist interests in mind. I'll see if I can slow this down. I forgot I had it up at 1.5.
They also acknowledge their willingness to use force to defend the revolution.
Todo paso que dan, cómo lo dan. Si cree que van a humillarnos, nos van a sobornar, nos van a intimidar con su accionar, estamos tan equivocados. Nosotros estamos tan restiados que si es de derramar más sangre y dar la vida por esta revolución, nosotros lo hacemos.
No creo que seamos nosotros los que nos enfrentamos día a día a ellos, ¿verdad? Para tratar de parar lo que hacen ellos. Porque si fuera por un enfrentamiento entre un colectivo, o sea, entre los colectivos, ¿verdad? Y la parte alta de la sociedad, yo creo que realmente es imaginarse que sería catastrófico para ellos.
Seguiremos batallando y seguiremos monitoreando cada...
Okay, basically what they're saying right there is this, that these instigators, these troublemakers, the term colectivo down there is their term for the militia. They have areas of their country that the locals, like our states, have pretty much taken over and aren't under federal authority or not under state authority. They pretty much take care of their own. And of course, wherever there are human beings, there's going to be probably some levels of corruption. We have that in the United States anyway. But they do weed that out eventually. And when things get completely out of control, like they did on the western border with Colombia, over in Zulia, yes, the government does step in and says, okay, you know what, since this is not in the best interest of the Venezuelan people, we're now going to reinstall, this and give it back to the people again. And this is the root of this argument about when Maduro decided to basically fire Congress and bring in other people from around the country to take the government back over. What he basically did is this. Imagine if the current leader would fire Congress completely and then go to each state and say, okay, your state governments, your state houses, state senates, you need to send me people from there. We're going to work that way now. Instead of having a separate Senate and House for the entire United States, we are going to take representatives from the state houses and senates of each particular state. So your state, not your state senator per se, but the senator that would be in your state, if you know the difference between a state representative and a national representative for a state. That's what happened. And this is the type of thing they don't tell you in the news. because of course they have their agendas. But the point is this: they have militias and they're ready to use them, and they're using them for the same reason. The exact same reason we did 300 years ago. And this is the video I made called "Can You Spot the Real Freedom Fighter?" And I know and I'll leave with this. I know I talk a lot about Venezuela, but I really think there is so much that we can learn from what's going on there, because everything in the last 10 to 15 years that's been talked about in this country about the freedom movement and the militia movement and the truth movement has happened there. The collapse of society, the outside forces coming in and taking things over, the SHTF, the shit hits the fan thing where, prepping, the working together, barter system, all of it, everything that's we've said was eventually going to happen here has already happened there. And they've shown the way as to how to get out on the other side of it with our freedom and our sovereignty. So if I can do anything, maybe I can be that bridge between what they've learned and put that to America in a way that Americans can understand it. So anyway, we'll leave it there. End of June. Everyone have a great weekend. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.